A pleasant good morning to everyone and welcome once again to another edition of the Carlos Brown Show, heard exclusively right here on the Open Mic Broadcast Network and Spreaker.com. It is the Bayou Classic, the 46th annual Bayou Classic going on in New Orleans, Louisiana at 4 p.m. today on the NBC Sports Network. And when I tell you, you win or you go home. Up for grabs in this ball game. The winner will be crowned the Western Division champion, and then the winner will go on to face Alcorn State University in the SWAC championship on the reservation in Lorman 2 years in a row. So I'm sure the Alcorn State fans are literally on cloud 9. Can I add cloud 10 and 11 as well? If Southern University is successful today, it'll be a rematch between Southern University and Alcorn State from the 2018 SWAC football championship. If Grambling State University wins it, it will be a rematch from earlier this season, where in overtime, Grambling State University defeated Alcorn State. So, as I've stated, hashtag win or go home. Hashtag SWAC Western Division title on the line. The 46th annual Bayou Classic. From all indications, 65,000 plus. Could be a sellout. That'll be officially at 69, 70,000 in the Mercedes-Benz Louisiana Superdome. Let me tell you the guest menu. It looks like this. Coming up at 10:15-ish, he's a former Southern University defensive tackle, DeMarcus Boo Boo Miller, my favorite defensive tackle of all time at Southern University. Outstanding player from the Houston area. And besides, I could look him eye to eye because height-wise, he wasn't very tall, but a dominant defensive tackle for Southern University. I will chat with DeMarcus Miller. Following DeMarcus Miller, I will visit with Santoria Black of the Grambling State Radio Network. He's in New Orleans, and let me just tell you this now. Usually, the first time we contact him to be on the show, we may not get him. He's going to be partying now. He's going to be excited to be on the show. Already down in New Orleans, Louisiana. Then in hour number 2, Charles Edmond of the Alcorn State Radio Network and a SWAC football report. I'm sure he's very happy that Alcorn State gets a chance to host the SWAC football championship. So we'll visit with Charles talking Southwestern Athletic Conference football. And, of course, he'll have his perspective, his take on the season so far, the Bayou Classic today, and SWAC football championship. Then, via the phone lines from Brandon B.J. Jones of HBCU Game Day, he'll join me. And guess what? He'll be live from New Orleans, Louisiana, talking HBCU football. And by the way, did you get a chance to watch FAMU and Bethune-Cookman last week? You're talking about streaks. There's a streak between Southern and Alcorn State, and not in a good way as far as I'm concerned. But FAMU, the same thing. 8 in a row to Bethune-Cookman. Go figure. FAMU, and for most of the majority of the season, picked to be the number 1 team in black college football. Isn't that really interesting / kind of weird that in spite of all that, Bethune-Cookman gets it done once again against FAMU. So we'll get Brandon and BJ thoughts on that perspective. And by the way, congratulations to North Carolina A&T. They get it done again. They'll be representing the Mid-Eastern Athletic Conference in the Celebration Bowl. And speaking of Celebration Bowl, I'll have more to discuss about going to Atlanta again. Hadn't missed one in a long time. Guess well, I've been to all of them actually. So with that being said, that's what the guest menu looks like. Bayou Classic. Some notes to give you, some numbers, what to look for. And, of course, if you want to take part in the show, you know how you can do it. You can send me an email at thecarlosbrownshow@gmail.com. I have Facebook Messenger open, the Carlos Brown Show Facebook page. A lot of you like to leave comments and questions on that. Hopefully everyone had a great Thanksgiving. Let me do this. I want to get his perspective right away. He is the good doctor, Brother Michael Prince, in Studio A Control Center. Dr. Prince, how you doing, sir?
I'm great, man. How are you? And happy holiday season to you.
I'm doing fine, and same to you. How was Thanksgiving for you?
Oh, wonderful, wonderful. Good food, good family, some fun, and some good football across the gamut, man. So I'm as they say, I'm A-OK.
Well, that's good to hear. You heard my opening monologue. It's #win or go home. Southern University in Birmingham, you were there. They were picked to win it all, or at least coming out of the Western Division. Let me say it that way. They still have a chance to have that opportunity to represent the Western Division. Grambling State, wow, 0-4 to start the season. Have not lost a game since then on a 6-game winning streak. The second hottest team, besides Alcorn, is Southern University. Their only loss in that period of time has been against Alcorn State.
And even though Alcorn has won, I wouldn't even consider them the hottest team right now. They've been winning, and they're getting it done. But, man, you got to be impressed with what Fobbs and the G-men have done.
Yeah, and a lot of people were not talking about them. Of course, they were picked to come out of the Western Division number 3. That disastrous start, albeit against a couple of FBS teams. Then the Jackson State game is what a lot of them have talked about at Grambling State. That seemed to get them going, and hadn't lost since then. Southern University, besides the Alcorn State loss, they won the rest of those games. Now, it has been an interesting stretch. Coach Owens has said they haven't played a complete game. I agree with that to date. And what a better time to do that would be today at 4 p.m., or a little bit after 4 p.m. It's been a struggle, but hey, they've been able to get it done. They've been up, they've been down, but at the end of the day, they have an opportunity to achieve a goal, and that was to come out of the Western Division. How do you see this game going, Dr. Prince?
You know what? I see this game being a cat and mouse game for the first half. Each guy kind of filling each other out, seeing what they can and can't do. They know what they're projected to do by film study and this, that, and the other. But you talked about the up and down season for Southern, and obviously the up and down season that Grambling had, which is a strong indicator for me. It's that regardless of the circumstances, good programs, good coaching staffs find a way to make it happen. Even if they're ugly wins, they're not the pure dominance that the fans expect week in and week out. But they find a way to get it done. They find a way to be the last man standing in majority of the contests. And that's all you really want as a fan, a supporter, and let's be honest, just a football connoisseur. You just want to be able to see some good competitive programming. And this game, and believe it or not, I still don't know who I'm going to pick yet. Isn't that crazy?
No, I wouldn't necessarily say so. Just kind of talking to some of the people that I normally talk with, basically, this game is statistically in several categories. They're even. Rushing game, Southern's number 1, 228 a game. Grambling State number 2. Offensively, both teams have had their struggles. They've been consistently inconsistent. Quarterback play has been looked at under a microscope as far as both teams. So with all that being said, pretty much a toss-up. That's most, the people that I talk to that can be objective about it. And both Southern and Grambling, they're picking their team to win.
Right.
But if you get past the emotion of it, pretty evenly matched, both teams. And I understand what you're saying. Basically, a toss-up, and it may come down to a few things that we'll discuss throughout the show.
Right. It really and truly, and we hear it, and sometimes people do an overkill on cliches, this, that, and the other. But if there are ever two teams that mirror each other, this is the pure example of that. Because if you took away the obvious colors representing both teams, to me, you're looking at identical styles and programs that'll be out there on their field today.
Yeah. Now, one thing I'm going to be watching for, and I suggest you all as well, defensively, shortcomings. Now, Southern has done very well against the run. Grambling State has kind of struggled with their running game. But the pass defense Southern University has had this year, wow, they have struggled. And we've talked about it. Projected starters coming into the season, they're not there. They haven't played all year. So you're now at the point where it's the next man up. It'll be interesting to see what kind of pressure can Southern get up front. Higginbotham is a dual threat quarterback. They relied on him last year, when he's scrambling and coming out as a runner. Skelton, the same way. And by the way, I went back and watched the replay of the Southern Jackson State football game, and boy, the commentators were basically fussing at Jackson State defensively. They were saying this: he's not going to beat you with the arm, with his arm.
Right.
He's not going to beat you with his arm. And they emphatically kept saying that. So they were saying you have to scheme for his athleticism, meaning Skelton. So, an early pointer, early kids, can Skelton get in a rhythm early on? We know he can run it. We know he's an athlete. Will Southern have a few new wrinkles that they've kind of had in their repertoire, and they've been saving it just for this moment? A big game, 4 p.m., Southern University and Grambling State for all of the marbles.
Atlanta or bust. That keeps ringing and resonating in my soul.
I'm glad you like that cliche, because I was thinking about that the other day. Once you have a cliche like that, you got to stick with it.
Right.
So
right.
Anything else will be less. We're getting in some messages from listeners already, and then our first guest, who's coming up, DeMarcus Miller, former Southern University defensive lineman. A listener says, Wheeler says, Dr. Prince is correct. These teams are very similar in many respects. The team whose quarterback plays the best will win the game. Edwin says we're still giving up the big run up the gut. Now, that Jackson State game, they were gashed.
Right. But, you're going to have those games where you just don't show up. It goes back to my opening statement. But good teams find a way to overcome, and there's always room for improvement. Even when you have the perfect game, there's still no such thing as the perfect game. Something could have been improved. So I can deal with that. Yeah, maybe I got gassed this game and we fine-tuned it. My secondary wasn't right where they're supposed to be, reading their keys for executing the defensive scheme, but we found a way to get through it. As I go over and I was listening to you, I think this game is going to be determined by special teams. And by that, punting, by flipping the field, and whoever has the accurate kicker today, that's how close I see this game being down to.
Well, interesting that you say that. And quickly, about a couple of minutes, then we'll go to our first guest. 38-28 was last year's ball game. As you talked about special teams, Southern got out to the big lead and held on to win. But Southern's first touchdown came with what? A block punt.
Right.
And special teams, you're right. That's a big part of the game, a third of the game. Well, 38-28, the Jaguars won last year to break a 3-year hold by Grambling State. If we can recap it quickly, 38-28 last year. In 2017, Grambling State won 30-21. 2016, 52-30. And 2015, 34-23. So with that being said, if you want to weigh in, the Coles Brown Show, Facebook.com, or on Facebook, you can leave a message there. Our Facebook Messenger, you can leave a question or comment there. But the Jackson State game, yes, that is the game that the defense overall just did not do well. And you're right, that was an off week, big time, and they still were able to pull it out against the Jackson State. But run defense, not bad at all this year. A much better effort. They've improved in that category. But yeah, against Jackson State, they did give up quite a bit of running yardage. So we'll throw out little tidbits and some stats for you throughout the show. But what I'll do right now is I'll take a time out. When I come back, I'll visit with just my favorite defensive lineman. And there were many, but DeMarcus Miller, boo-boo, just an outstanding player for Southern University. He'll be joining me next, and I'll leave you with this. Doug Williams said, my goodness, we could not block him in the Bayou Classic. And this guy's all 5'10", but you had speed, quickness, and Doug said if he was just one of the better players that he coached against while at Grambling State University. So we'll hear from him next. He'll tell us what he's doing now in life, post-football playing career, and, of course, his thoughts on today's game and playing in the Bayou Classic, how emotional that is. You know, Dr. Prince, I said that Jackson State is the rivalry that gets the blood going, but this is the granddaddy of them all, the Classic, the Bayou Classic, the 46th annual. It's more like family. You're going against family, but, hey, guess what? You got to have a winner today. The winner of this football game represents the Western Division. High stakes. A lot is on board here. Southern University and Grambling State. Take a quick time out. DeMarcus Miller is up next. You're listening to the Carlos Brown Show on the Open Mic Broadcast Network and Spreaker.com.
Chris, can you put the video game controller down for a second?
I can talk and play. Oh, I'm totally annihilating this punk kid in Nebraska.
I just feel like you're not acting like a grown-up in our relationship.
Am too.
Well, you know, you still ride your skateboard to work, there's the comic book collection, the race car bed.
Look, I'm young at heart, but I put money into my 401k every paycheck. I picked up a few savings tips at feedthepig.org. I have control over my financial life now, and that feels pretty grown up.
Put away a few bucks, feel like $1 million. Putting some money from every paycheck into a savings account or contributing to your 401k can make a big difference later. For free ideas and easy tips on ways to save, go to feedthepig.org. That's feedthepig.org.
So, I bet I look like a grown-up to you now.
Well, except for the footy pajamas, I'd have to agree.
This message brought to you by the American Institute of Certified Public Accountants and the Ad Council.
Be the one with courage to fight child abuse.
All Texans must find the courage to fight child abuse.
Learn the signs and symptoms and report suspected abuse to appropriate authorities.
Learn and know these warning signs.
A child who undergoes changes in behavior, appetite, or routine.
Watch for unexplained injuries, a change in academic performance, or loss of interest by a child in regular activities.
Trust your instincts. If you suspect something, do something.
If you believe a child is in an abusive situation, please call the Texas Abuse Hotline at 1-800-252-5400.
Be the one with courage. To find your local Children's Advocacy Center, visit onewithcourage.org.
On behalf of children, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Sweet music to my ear. Welcome back to this week's edition of the Carlos Brown Show, heard exclusively right here on the Open Mic Broadcast Network and Spreaker.com. First guest of today's show is DeMarcus Miller, just a tremendous football player at Southern University, a terrific guy that I got a chance to meet a few years ago. We'll just put it that way. DeMarcus Boo Boo Miller. DeMarcus, good morning to you, sir.
Good morning, Carlos. How's it going?
I can't complain. Thank God there is a God. How you been?
Man, I've been well, man. I appreciate the opportunity to be on the real CBS show once again, the Carlos Brown Show. It's always good talking with you, man.
I appreciate the kind words. It's our pleasure indeed. The 46th annual Bayou Classic. That means a lot every year, and this year even a special added twist because like the last few years, the winner of this game will represent the Western Division. But talk about your time, what it meant to you playing in the Bayou Classic, and then give everyone who's maybe listening for the first time the years you played at Southern University.
Well, like I was mentioning, the Bayou Classic is like an experience that everyone don't get to enjoy, and it's different because it's different from every other game because this is the only game that you actually go hang with your opponent. Because leading up to the game, you have different events, we have banquets and things, so we have to look at the guys that we plan on murdering in a few hours and act friendly. We have to dress up and be friendly, but in our mindset, we're ready. We're going for the kill. And so it's at a hype, and thank God we didn't really have social media back when we played because I could only imagine what it would be like then.
Wow,
but,
that's a good point.
It's just like, Carlos, when you walk out when you step in that dome, because you realize you represent more than just Southern University and Grambling University. You represent all kind of families because most of these players, especially in-state players, they were teammates before in high school. Mm-hmm. And so it's bigger than just that one game, and it's the bragging rights for the year. People come up to you on Bourbon Street after the game and let you know how you changed their whole course of the year because of a victory. And so it's like a lot of extra added pressure on your back. But hey, once that ball is snapped, it's just you and that man in front of you, and that's all I'll let you think about at that time.
Wow, and that's interesting that you mentioned some of the players that played together in high school. Now, you're from the big state next door. When did it hit you? Maybe you saw the Bayou Classic before you came to Southern University, but when did it really hit you how important this Bayou Classic game was? Because you're from the Houston, Texas area.
Right. Yeah, be honest with you, I never knew anything about the Bayou Classic. Coach Kites recruited me out of from Louisiana, from Southern, and he mentioned the game, but I had never seen the game before. And so once I got there, Sam George, the quarterback, was my host.
Yeah,
and he kept telling me about the Bayou Classic, the Bayou Classic. So I'm like, what is a Bayou Classic? He's like, man, it's like a black college Super Bowl. I was like, okay, okay. So I was excited, and they were hyping me up, but until you hit it, until you experience it that first time, words can't think about it. We're in a stadium with 70,000 people just screaming, 7,000 our people, for the most part, enjoying watching you do what you love to do. And like I say, the ramifications is so greater, and especially like you say now, the winner goes to the big dance. You can't beat it. And I remember our senior year in '99, we was in that same situation. And if you recall, I think we were down like 31 points at halftime.
Oh, I remember well, 1999. You're absolutely right. The winner goes on to play Jackson State in the first SWAC football championship with Birmingham.
Exactly. So you're talking about, we were a team that had dominated the SWAC the previous 3 years, undefeated in SWAC conference. And now it comes down to this one game. The winner goes and represents the conference in the first ever, and we're down 21. Oh, it was a interesting halftime locker room. If I could say
about that.
Because it was amazing. For one, we had pictures of our ring that we were going to win in everybody's locker room. So we had saw those rings before the game, and we was like, man, we put in all this work. This is our ring, and here we're down 31. And the interesting thing about that, Carlos, this team was so confident with each other, and we were so confident in our ability. No one was quote unquote scared, or no one ever thought we were going to lose. We just knew we had to quit making the stupid mistakes we were making and get back and do what we do. And Dog Day D woke up, and we ended up coming back winning that game.
Well, I remember because that dome was very loud, and I'm in the press area, but right below at that time, the press was midways in the Superdome, pre-Katrina. And you could actually hear the Grambling State fans saying, "It's over, baby, it's over." And they were very loud and boisterous. But boy, about midway through that third quarter, it was like less noise. Oh, they were worried. And matter of fact, people were looking down at them. Where they at? We heard them a lot. But I want to go back in that halftime. Was it a lot of screaming or furniture moving? Was it very emotional? Or was Coach Richardson basically the way he's always been to me? He just wanted to get his point across and at halftime.
The interesting thing about Coach Richardson is, you would see him on the sideline and everybody would see this fiery, going crazy, going after the ref type of coach. But when he was dealing with us, especially in a situation like that, Coach Richardson was probably the calmest fella in the locker room. And he I think that's what kept the rest of the team as calm. Hey, he came in, laid out what was going wrong, what we were doing, how we were shooting ourselves in the foot, and what we needed to do to get this thing back on track, one play at a time. And I promise you, that calm approach resonated throughout that locker room. And we just came out that second half, one play at a time. That's all we focused on, the very next play. It was like they say, old saying, chopping wood. You keep chopping at that tree, and eventually it's going to fall down. And that's all we did. We were chopping wood, one play at a time. And I think that was the key. I mean, there was no cussing, there was no screaming, there was nobody out of control, out of character. It was just a calm environment. Hey, let's get back to work. Let's do what we know we need to do and what we can do. And we got it done, Carlos.
That's very interesting because if I'm the head coach at that time, I'm probably the total opposite. I mean, just blood pressure out the roof. I'm coming in, and I like what you said. You knew what you guys had to do. Hey, we don't have to scream and holler and fuss. Go out and correct the mistakes and come out. And you saw what happened in that ball game. It's probably the biggest comeback in the history of the Bayou Classic. If not, it's got to be up there.
It's not the biggest comeback. I guarantee you one of the best watched Bayou Classic.
Oh, yeah, 1999. As you look at this game today, Southern and Grambling State, it's family, it's a rivalry, it's the 46th annual Bayou Classic, win or go home, SWAC Western Division title on the line. If you were able to talk to the present team, what would you kind of lay on them about going into this football game today?
My message to them would be, you know what? Ignore the noise. Ignore the hype about this has been the Bayou Classic. Ignore the hype about family and friends. It's about lining down the man in front of you. It's two things gonna happen. One, it's either you gonna kick his butt or he gonna kick your butt. And the thing is, you focus on the very next play. We understand the magnitude of this game, but if you get caught up in the magnitude, you're gonna get nervous. When you get nervous, when you're thinking, you play slow. So if I'm just focused on doing my job and doing my job to the best of my ability, dominate every play you possibly can play. Hey, you're not gonna win them all, but dominate more than you lose, and let the marbles fall as they may. But your only focus is that man in front of you executing the game plan, executing your job, doing your job, executing the game plan, and being accountable to your teammates. And if you can do that, you'll walk out of here with a victory.
Positive message. Truthful and positive. DeMarcus Miller, he played in this game of this magnitude. So what I'm hearing, DeMarcus, is it's a big game, but then mentally you got to lock in. It's just another game, but you realize it's the Bayou Classic, but you have to mentalize it and just be ready and kind of treat it just like the next game.
Carlos, if you don't do that, if you lose focus, you're going to get beat. Now, in a game like this, it's about who can control the clock. So if you go look at the stats, Grambling has the worst ball control of the SWAC. And if you look, Southern runs the ball. It's the top rushing and scoring, and also the top defense in stopping the run. And so, to me, that's key to anything. If I can control the clock with the run, and I can stop you from running the ball, that's a recipe for success. Like I say, so if you do that, and not turn over the ball, that's the key. Because these games, these are these emotional games. Because the fans are going to be in it. All the emotion is involved, and a turnover, a multiple turnover, that can kill you. So you got to protect that ball. You got to run that rock, and you got to stop them. But yeah, you got to look out because Grambling has been they're hot. They're hot. They've been on a 6-game win streak, and so when you win a game like that, you got to have some defense. And so your defense is keeping you in the game. And neither team to me is a great passing team. So it's about who's going to run the ball and who's going to stop the team from running the ball, and who's not going to turn the ball over. And that's going to be your victim. That's going to be your champion tonight.
Some things change, but yet they remain the same. Stop the run, win the kicking game, and no turnovers. That's been basically the recipe. I guess most coaches would say that.
I mean, it's a proven formula.
Yeah.
And like the great Bill Belichick say, do your job.
Do your job.
Do your job.
And speaking of jobs, what is DeMarcus Miller doing right now post football? I know it's only been a few short years since you left. But what
just a couple. Well, DeMarcus is the professional job that keeps the roof over our head is education. I'm a school teacher and a football coach out here in Sugar Land, Texas. But as you know, with a wife and 3 kids, you need a little side hustle. So my side hustle, I do a little catering. I have a company, Boo Boo's Barbecue, and we cater to all your barbecue needs. Our motto is get some in your lips and then you hook for life. That's what I'm doing out here.
Yeah, I've seen it from afar on Instagram. It looks delicious, and you said it not only does it look delicious, it is. So my lips were just dry thinking about when I get a chance to try it.
Carlos, I got to get some in your lips, man. I'm telling you, the very next time you're near Houston, you let me know. I'll meet you.
Don't forget the producer who is in Prairie View, Texas, too. So I'm just saying, y'all carry on.
I got you, baby. You know I got you.
Yeah, he'll probably get the taste before I will, but that's
I'll
all
give
right.
you a full detailed report about it too, brother. I surely would.
I will lay the spread out for you.
Well, I'm glad that's going well for you. And when I thought about a Bayou Classic and having the show, I said I gotta reach out to DeMarcus Miller, who just and before we got to you on the interview, Coach Doug Williams, he pretty much told me. He said we could not block him, and he actually said one of the better defensive linemen that he coached against. And he said, DeMarcus, if you were 6'4", 6'2", 6'1", it would have been a different story. But guess what? You made it to Southern University, and Southern had to fight a little bit from the stories I've heard to get you. But once you got to Southern University, you can ask a lot of people. They will tell you. One of their favorites, it's you, Andre Davis. Those are some of the names that just come out when people talk about it, and it's fond memories. Fond memories. So I know your time at Southern, you enjoyed it. Playing in the Bayou Classic, the Jackson States, the Alcorn States. I don't know which Southern was more successful against Alcorn at that time. Have their struggles now with Alcorn State, but hey, one win will change it all. One game at a time, right, DeMarcus?
One game, one play at a time. Man, I appreciate that. I appreciate you keeping us old heads relevant. You know, I know that 20 years later they don't remember us, but you definitely keep us relevant. You definitely keep us in your mouth. I guess because you know good football when you see good football, and it's hard to duplicate that. Yeah. And that's what that time was. That was some good football. We had some good players. I mean, all the way around, we were a solid group of individuals, focused group of individuals. And what we did, we tried to set the path, you know, for the people, for the teams that come behind us. You know, we tried to do it the right way, and I believe we did it the right way. We worked hard, and we had fun. And that's what I try to teach my players now. You got to have fun, but you got to put in the work. You know, you got to fill up that bank account with work. So when it's time for payday out there on that field, hey, you just enjoy what you do. Do what you do and enjoy it.
Yeah, that's great advice. What high school are you coaching at?
I'm at Kempner High School. It's out here in Sugar Land, Texas, in Fort Bend School District.
Mm-hmm. Wow, Houston's so big. I mean, independent school district.
Right.
Oh man, the Texas playoffs. I mean, it takes you. Looks like 2 months to get through it. I mean, just going through the information.
Right.
Games,
it's big time. It's big time down here. I enjoy it. But like I said, I definitely enjoyed my time in Louisiana. You know, I spent almost 10 years there after, you know, I finished playing. I was coaching there for a minute.
Yeah.
So that's my second home without a doubt.
I understand. A former defensive lineman at Southern University, if you could give them a special or private moment today. The KV's champion is from Texas, one of the leaders on the defensive line. What would be a private moment with them?
Or the defensive line?
Yeah.
Let's eat, baby. Let's eat. Get to this quarterback. First of all, stop this run. And then once you stop the run, pin them ears back, and let's go eat. Let's become, you want to be that MVP. You know, I think now they honor the MVPs every year. Mm-hmm. Play to be that MVP. Play to get your name on the anthem. Have NBC or whoever broadcasts the game talk about you all night long. And how do you do that? Is you dominate the man in front of you. Dominate him, do your job, and do it well.
And now, because of Tiffany, a new sponsor of Southwestern Athletic Conference, I don't know if many of you saw in the locker room the footage when Dr. McClellan presented a nice trophy to the Eastern Division champ. So I'm going to say he's going to be in New Orleans today in the locker room after the game, presenting it to the Western Division champions. And that would be very nice to have one of those trophies as well. So at stake, the Western Division championship. Can Southern make it 2 years in a row? Grambling State will have a lot to say about it. Both teams seem to be evenly matched. But as DeMarcus Miller has stated in this interview, focus, block out a lot of the noise, and win the play every time out. That's one of your goals. DeMarcus, we appreciate the time as always. I look forward to talking with you the next time.
Carlos, I appreciate you. It's been an honor. And next time, come on down. Boo Boo's Barbecue, we got you.
Well, Prairie View next season in Prairie View, but we might have to get a sample before then. But
you can't wait that long. You can't.
I appreciate the invite, and it looks great. It looks great. So I know it looks great and it tastes great.
Yes, sir. Get some in your lips, baby.
Yes, indeed. I have to remember that. You have a great weekend. You and the family. Expand it now. Take care of them, and y'all take care of each other. And appreciate the time as always.
Anytime, Carlos. We appreciate you guys. Y'all take care.
All righty. DeMarcus Boo Boo Miller, former defensive tackle at Southern University, joined us today on the Carlos Brown Show, talking basically Bayou Classic, what it means, and it is a big matchup. Last year, Southern University defeated Grambling State 38-28. After one quarter, it was 7-7. Southern outscored Grambling State by 7, 10-3 in the second quarter. Third quarter is where Southern really put some distance from Grambling State, outscoring them 14-3 in the third quarter. Then Grambling State, they made a heck of a run in the fourth quarter, outscoring Southern University 15-7. But I still will say this as we go to this timeout. Jordan Lewis, that was a strip, and that was a fumble, and he picked it up, and that should have counted for a touchdown. Should have been 45-28. But they blew it dead. No. Hopefully the officiating will be on par today. Because if I had another extra segment, I'd talk about the refereeing and officiating in the NFL. My goodness. But that's another discussion for another time. Coming up next, let's see if we can find Santoria Black. I'm sure he's somewhere in New Orleans. He'll join me next, giving us a rundown on Grambling State University and the Bayou Classic. He's coming up next. You're listening to the Carlos Brown Show on the Open Mic Broadcast Network and Spreaker.com.
One voice. It can get the point across, but it only carries so far. Add a voice. It's richer, louder, but that has limits too. Add a third voice. It's even more powerful. Add another, and many, many more. And we are stronger than ever. That's the power of a community coalition. They help community groups, faith groups, civic organizations, PTAs, employers, and many others in your community organize their resources and focus them where they're needed most, like fighting to keep kids away from drugs. Ask a group that you belong to if they should belong to a community coalition. It's easy to get involved. Visit helpyourcommunity.org and they'll tell you exactly how your group can help. That's helpyourcommunity.org, because you get more when we get together. Brought to you by the Office of National Drug Control Policy and the Ad Council.
Hi, this is Mike Prince with the Open Mic Broadcast Network, extending an opportunity for you to become a listening partner with us today. At 17 cents a day, you can make a huge impact on our local and regional high school and college student athletic coverage. We provide local talk shows, live game coverage, and much, much more. But we need your support to continue to move forward. Visit our website today at obnradio.com. Click on the PayPal button, which is safe and secure, and become a listening partner today. 17 cents a day comes out to $60 a year. Will you become part of the Open Mic Broadcast Network team? Visit that website at obnradio.com and become a listening partner today. Serving the community through faith and athletics, the voice of student athletics, the Open Mic Broadcast Network, Prairie View, Texas.
Welcome back to this week's edition episode of the Carlos Brown Show heard exclusively on the Open Mic Broadcast Network and Spreaker.com. My next guest is Santoria Black of the Grambling State Radio Network, live from New Orleans. Santoria, are you all right? You're doing well? You're ready for the broadcast of the Bayou Classic at 4 p.m., sir?
Yeah, I am ready, sir. I have been warming up my pipes and drinking tea of the holy kind. So I am ready, Pastor.
Hey, you know what? There's a calling always for those type of opportunities. You never know. You never know. But I do know this. The Bayou Classic at 4 p.m. Today. And I had someone ask me, made the comment that they have to get used to this 4 p.m. They're old school. They're 1:30 p.m. 4 p.m. now. What is your thoughts on that? Did you adjust, or did you have to make any adjustments for that, Santoria?
You know, I love it, and I'm going to tell you why. Because you know how it is in New Orleans. Battle of the Bands, it starts at 7 now. You're not going to get done with 11:30. And then you got people going out, they're getting some of the holy water to drink at night. And so then after they do that, you know, it's 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock when you get in the room. Now all of a sudden the game is at 1, and you barely just getting your butt up and all of that kind of stuff. You ain't got a chance to go to no sales. You don't have a chance to get this crust out your eyes. So now 4 o'clock I think is perfect. You can sleep in a little bit. If you have had a little bit too much enjoyment on Friday evening, then you can sleep in for a little bit. So I think 4 p.m. is a perfect time.
Now, I would expect that answer from someone that's, 19 to 25. Not many people in my age group have stated publicly that they like the time. I'm not saying that you're old, Santoria. I'm older than you, I'm sure. But 4 p.m., not bad. I think the majority of people would like that.
Great. Yeah, I think 4 is great. I think it gives everybody a chance to kind of regroup after a long Friday night. I think it gives people an opportunity to go to stores, whatever they're going to do, spend more money here in New Orleans. So, I think it's fabulous.
Yeah, and speaking of that, a $50 million impact,
yes.
This Bayou Classic.
Oh, yeah,
not bad.
$50 million. And, look, you got probably $51, $52 million after you get in spending all that money on liquor.
Yeah. Well, I can understand that. Back in the day, I take pride in having that at that time of the year. I understand. With that, Santoria, you sound like you're fading.
Can you hear me better now?
Yeah, that's much better. Okay.
Hold on 1 second, guys.
All right. Boy, you got to love it, live radio.
I won't leave you alone on that one, sir.
All right, I'm sorry, sir. I'm directing students at the same time. I'm so sorry.
I understand.
How unprofessional of me. I'm so sorry.
You know what? That's why you got some purple tape in the mail.
Purple tape. You know what? Only us broadcasters would really understand that. But that's okay, though. That's all right. That's all right.
Well, I hope it's as much fun for the fans at 4 p.m., the Battle of the Bands. You have the Greek show, the number of events, the parade, job fair, all of that. After all these years, and you look at the history of the game between these two institutions, it's still going fine, Santoria. Still going fine.
It's still going wonderful. Look, I think when I got here Thursday, and one of the things that we looked at on Thursday when we got here is the number of people who are taking the opportunity after they get done filling their belly with turkey and dressing. Notice I did not say stuffing, turkey and dressing and sweet potato pie and all of that. They are coming here to enjoy themselves, being down with Meemaw, and just enjoying themselves on Thursday to kind of relax and get their bearings, doing some shopping, and then Friday starts all of the events. And I really do think that it's a tremendous opportunity for everybody to do this. There's been some talk that, hey, why didn't we, how you doing, sir? Why didn't we, move this? How come we are not in the one AA championship, this and that and the other? Well, this is why. Thanksgiving weekend is about tradition. And I think with this kind of tradition, it's so great to see so many people from Southern, from Grambling. You take that time off to, fellowship with each other, talk a little foolishness to each other. So it's great.
Yeah. And, it's a different type of rivalry. It's not per se like Southern and Jackson State, Grambling State, and Prairie View. I think those are more intense in a way, but it doesn't mean that this game between two institutions in the state of Louisiana don't get after it. And I just think what's at stake today adds on to it, just like last year when it's the Western Division Championship at stake. That even puts extra luster on the game of this afternoon.
So I think it does. And, there's so many storylines behind this game. You start taking a look at what Southern has been able to do this year. They've had 3 or 4 games that you thought, hey, they might just blow that team out. Close game with Texas Southern. Close game that they had with, I think it was Alabama A&M. Close game with Jackson State. All these games were within a touchdown. And so you start looking at that and you say, wow, Southern's offense is putting up points. Look at what Darius Skelton is doing. Then you look at the flip side and you start look at what Grambling's defense is doing. 6 games in a row, 0-4, back like around 2011, 2012. Everybody left Grambling for dead. They won 6 in a row. Nobody thought that they would beat Pine Bluff on the road. Then here comes Jackson. Here comes Alcorn, another extra point or field goal mishap. All of these different things that have happened. And so now you've got the explosive offense of Southern against a tenacious defense of Grambling. You've got all of this pageantry going on now for the Western Division crown. I mean, you couldn't ask for a better scenario for this game. I think this is like 4 or 5 years and it's come down to this game. I mean, how perfect is that?
Yeah, in a perfect world, it's perfect. And in a not so perfect world, it's still perfect because of what you just said. And then the similarities as well. I mean, offensively, albeit Southern has put up some numbers, they kind of had quarterback issues. Grambling State has had quarterback issues.
Oh, yeah.
And Grambling State, as you stated, on the winning streak. Southern on a winning streak, only one blip against Alcorn State, which Grambling State defeated Alcorn. So, I don't know if people have been asking you throughout the week or the weeks coming up to this game, but I've been getting people to ask me, how do I feel? And I still feel the same way that I did 2 or 3 weeks ago. To me, this game is going to come down to a few things, but it's a toss-up right now.
It is. I think
they're that even to me.
Yeah. I think there's 3 major things here. I think the first thing is who has the ball last. That it could come down to that. But I also think it's about who's making mistakes. Now, if you go back and you look at the Texas Southern game, you kind of look at that Prairie View game where there were some mistakes that happened that Southern was able to fight out of. There was a few things that Prairie View did to themselves where they had some long passes, some penalties, all this other kind of stuff, where you make some of those throws and you're talking about a different outcome. So I think you're right. It just comes down to penalties, mistakes. It comes down to who has that ball last, I think. But I think more importantly, I think the battle is going to be won by the buffet busters up front. I think that whoever is able to impose their will up front is going to really dictate this game. And let's just be honest. A lot of the teams that Southern has played, the reason that they've had so many issues is because they run that form of an option with Ben and with the running backs. And, all you need is just a little bit of room for Ben. You need a size of a gnat for Ben to squeeze through, and he's gone for 50. So that's how it's really going to look. You just need that whoever's going to impose that will on the line, I think that's really going to tell the difference.
Interesting that you mentioned that. Ben last year, 167 yards, albeit last year. And then Skelton running the triple option and what have you. And you hear a lot of the talk, and I know you've heard it. This year, teams have been able to scheme more for him than when he just bust on the scene last year. And then you hear this, you've got to spy Skelton and take that part away from him. you want him to beat you with his arm and then decision making. And I think that's where teams feel comfortable scheming against Southern University. I'm sure you've heard that.
Oh, yeah. You know what? In a way, I would agree with that. Here's why. Actually, the backup quarterback, I think, is a better passer than Skelton is. Skelton, I think, is a better athlete, though. And so when you start looking at how Skelton operates the game, here's how teams make mistakes. Two things. One is you got to play assignment football very good. You cannot allow Skelton to roam around. If you let him get to the outside and somebody falls asleep at the wheel, he can hit you for a big one running the football. The other thing is a lot of defenses have had issues tackling in space. So it's no longer about, all this game tackling and all that. You got to be able to tackle in space. That means none of this hidden like you see on TV sometimes. You have got to make sure that you are hitting, you are wrapping, and you are tackling in space well. Those are the things, in honesty, that I've seen in film where teams have had problems. And then with Ben, you can't do this little tiptoe dancing and popping him with the shoulder pads. He is very skilled at running. That means you have got to hit, you have got to wrap, you have got to drive. So all of those things as far as tackling, that is probably one of the most underrated things when you talk about the game today that's being done. Because we see so much of this wow factor with, man, did you see that hit? But there was no tackling going on. That's just hitting. But tackle somebody. That's what Ronnie Lott did. That's why people still trying to think about where's my memory on the field, because Ronnie Lott would tackle you.
Yeah, Ronnie Lott will lay the boom. And another thing, you mentioned about, mistakes and Grambling turnover streak. They have one of the most impressive streaks in FCS football. They have forced at least one turnover in each of his last 8 games. So when you talk about turnovers and special teams, and I would say this, and see if you agree with this, Santoria, it may come to a point in the game that Skelton will have to make that out throw, make that pass to a receiver, because it's going to come to a point, to me, in the game that he's got to be able to do that and then do it consistently.
Yeah. And there's the thing is that, late in the ball game, even not just late in the ball game, but in the second half, once halftime is over with, the band's been on the field for an hour and a half and all this other kind of stuff.
No penalties.
Second half, no penalties, Henry penalties. But the thing is that I think that Skelton, in taking a look at his mechanics and what he does, I think you're right, it's how he throws that out. In the middle of the field, this is where Grambling's going to have to be careful. The middle of the field can be susceptible at times. Skelton's got to be aware of his checkdowns. If he doesn't see anything deep, look in the middle of the field. Grambling on defense, just back those. You got to make sure you're spine Skelton, but bring those guys up. They play a 4-2-5 defense. So you're bringing those guys up a little bit to close down the middle of the field. Now you're going to make Skelton have to make some decisions. And if he tests those corners to the outside, that's where the real battle is. You bring those safeties up a little bit, and they're not getting deep. And you can contest that middle of the field where I'm sure they've been looking at. Now you're going to see if Skelton can get those guys deep and how good those receivers and Skelton arm really is.
We're visiting with Santoria Black of the Grambling State Radio Network. There's always intangibles in a ball game. If you look, Mark Orlando, people in Baton Rouge know him very well. Offensive coordinator for many years at Southern University. Coach Terrence Graves, special teams coordinator and coaches on the defense. Do we put too much stock in, opposing coaches, or used to be your coaches now on the other team? Or is it just an opportunity where, hey, they know being in the Bayou Classic, having coached in it before, that's a help?
Well, I think that the experience in coaching in games like this does help you. I think that sometimes we can put a little bit too much in there, and here's why. Really nobody on that staff at Southern University was there when Orlando was there. Terrence Graves, because he used to be an assistant coach with Pete Richardson. And so I think that sometimes we can put a little bit too much to that because, remember, as football evolves, so do coaches, and sometimes they change their style up a little bit. So I think that the main thing that, a lot that has to be remembered at this point is, hey, we have to see what the ability of this team is now. How do they look now? And let's just be honest, man.
Coach Odoms is such a deceiving kind of coach when you start looking at film, because you can see some things that he did against Jackson, he did against Texas Southern, and all of a sudden here comes the Bayou Classic, and they're running something that they have not run all year long. They may have practiced it, they've looked at it, they said, hey, we're going to work on this, but he's not going to put everything out there. He is extremely intelligent when it comes to adjusting. So you're going to see things that you probably have not seen a lot this year, if at all. There's going to be a whole lot of wrinkles in this game today. So I think that sometimes we put a little bit too much in, here, your coach is. Now, if it's recent, yeah, you can see some similarities. But other than that, at times, I think we can sometimes put too much into that. The intangibles, to me, to be honest with you, I think is going to be the adjustments. Who makes adjustments the best? Because sometimes you can't see an adjustment on the field. You can just see numbers. But if you can start making adjustments, whoever does that the best is probably going to win this game.
Well, two coaching staffs that are familiar with each other, the Bayou Classic, Grambling State University, hottest team in the conference, Southern and Alcorn State, right behind them as far as playing well. Who makes adjustments during the game, at halftime? Who, when they face some adversity, can they overcome it? That's a lot of things that go on in those 60 minutes. And Santori, I think this one has the makings to be another game that they'll be talking about for many years.
Well, I think there's a good point to that. I'm going to tell you something. I was talking to a couple of alums yesterday, and one of the things that they talked about as it relates to this game, the coaching staffs, players, administrators, I think that the number one thing that they talk about and that they have to be able to transcend to players is the word pride. Everybody who's been a part of Grambling football or Southern football for years and understands the rivalry and things like that, they've seen it. But I think being able to translate that to the new players, to new people who haven't been a part of the tradition, it's about that pride. And that's pride sometimes is how you go out and you play. You give, instead of 110%, 125%. You really do things a little bit differently. Bayou Classic week is different. If you can't get up at this game, man, you just have no business in football. And I think that's one of the things that, it does make you sit back and just think of the awesomeness of what this game and what this weekend really means, not just to these players, but to just both of these communities, both of these schools, and how it translates to the entire country.
Good point. And for recruiting purposes, the winner gets a chance to brag about it for a year. The next time they face each other. And they not only is there a interaction between the coaches during the football game, but also in the recruiting area. And they cross each other's paths. I know that for a fact. So this game has the makings on paper to be a good one. And as far as I'm concerned, it's basically a toss-up. Maybe I have a prediction. It really is. Maybe I have a prediction for the end of the show. Maybe I won't. I'm leaning toward not. Just watching the game and just seeing who is it, the best team.
And as a matter of fact, I was asked on radio earlier this week, what's your prediction? I said, well, I've been doing this over 20 years, and I don't make a prediction of the Bayou Classic. I think that the major thing is, from an objective standpoint, is you want this game to look good on television. You want there to be a good contest.
Yeah.
And I think that's a win for both schools. Now, there's going to be a winner, there's going to be a loser, but you definitely want there to be a good contest on the field. Now, on the Grambling side, as I told my cousins, after we get done eating greens and macaroni together, I will see you on Sunday. Don't come talk to me on Saturday. We'll talk on Sunday. Now, Thursday we'll sit down, we'll have greens and cornbread and sweet potatoes and all that kind of stuff. But then you leave on Friday, go sit where you sit. I'm going to sit where I sit, and then we'll get back together on Sunday. And that's just the nature of the rivalry. You eat dinner and then you leave. You don't even talk to each other for a little while. As a matter of fact, I had a family member who said, hey, you got tickets to the game. I said, you're going to sit on the Grambling side. He said, but I go to Southern. I said, that's tough cooking. You sit on my side or buy your tickets. I mean, that's just the way it goes now. You know what I'm saying? But we family. We are family. Sit on your side if you want to cheer for Southern. You sit on my side if you want to cheer for Grambling. So, that's a decision that you have to make, though. Needless to say, he bought his tickets.
Yeah. I understand that. Boy, speaking of that, my best friend, wow, his family's in town, and he's the only Southernite.
Oh, wow.
Nice picture. You know, I've heard stories. I've known of several couples, husband and wife. One is a Grambling, one's a Southernite. He says sometimes you win the battle and don't win the war, and vice versa. So he basically said, you know, this one particular couple, he's a Southernite. When he wins, and Southern wins, he doesn't try to rub it in because there's still other days.
Man, let me tell you something now. Now, I'm going to tell you something. Yeah, it's for these millennial couples, too. You know, those ones get cute on YouTube and stuff like that about these rivalries. Let me tell you something now. You got to go home with that woman. And in winning, you lose sometimes. You got to know when to step on the gas and get off now because, boy, you be sleeping on the couch. And it's kind of cold out there. So you won the game, but then you ain't got nobody to sleep next to. So you got to choose your battles. I'm going to give you a great example. So I have a classmate of mine, went to Grambling, married a nice young lady from Southern University. Really, really beautiful person. Well, of course, during the streak of when Grambling was losing all those games, she did a lot of things, like making him wear a too tight Southern University shirt and making him wear an all Southern University jogging suit to his job on Friday.
Wow.
Really torturous. So he said, okay, no problem. I got you. So the first year Grambling won, the stakes were high. He says, I tell you what I will do. I wear whatever you want me to do Southern. So she says, okay, I'm going to get you an entire Southern University hat, polo. I'm going to get you khakis with the SU logo on it, Southern shoes, all of that. He says, okay, and if I win, you're going to wear a Grambling State University bikini to our vacation in Florida. Well, he made her stay on the bet. And guess what? The only thing that he enjoyed was the view on vacation. That was it. So when you win, you lose sometimes. You have to choose your battles.
You know, on that note, well said. I was going similar to that direction, but taking the total package, if you get my drift. Yeah.
Oh, man, let me tell you something. Sometimes you have to just say, you know what, ma'am, I'm not going to make you do that. Because you have to think about what's ahead. So if you won that battle, you see all of this, don't you? Oh, yeah, that's all you're going to see.
Yes, sir. So that way you win the battle, but you lose the war.
Hey, this is family programming here, guys.
Look, we got to be honest. The stakes are high here for some of these couples, and we have to give them sound Christian advice here. We can't have people in all of these bad situations. You know, the best thing, and I'm going to tell you something, the best thing about this is that you do have a lot of these, nice friendly wagers and friendly bets and all of that. And that's what's great about it. My thing is, to everybody who's out there, have fun. Don't worry about all of this other stuff and this foolishness. Just have fun this weekend. Make sure that you come back where you can remember the weekend. Don't go back to Southern or Grambling with something that you did not start with after the weekend. Just have fun. I'm just done preaching. I'm just telling you the truth. Tell the truth, shame the devil. I'm just saying, you just have to just have fun this weekend, and everybody, do it in a safe way. But now, let me just tell you something. Them greens gonna be good and hot if Grambling wins on Saturday. Oh man, I told my cousin, bring your own pepper sauce because it's gonna get hot.
Wow. Well, I could go somewhere with South Louisiana versus North Louisiana, but I better not. Bishop Santoria Black, appreciate
it. Yes, sir.
Appreciate
Send your ties and your offerings to the brother Mike Prince at his network. He'll love you for it.
Yeah, he's an elder himself. But on that note, appreciate the time, and we'll speak real soon.
Absolutely, man. It's always a pleasure being on with you guys, and happy late Thanksgiving to you, and we really appreciate all that you do. And having me on the show is really fun with you guys when I come on, man. So you guys be safe. Carlos, keep just make sure that if Grambling wins now, we're gonna put out an APB on you. I'm gonna make sure that you're safe and you are okay. You're gonna make sure you're safe.
I'm not gonna go on the ledge, but I tell you what, if you play hard and you lose, and Grambling was the better team, you can live with that. But if you don't play up to your capabilities and you don't win, I'm
That's the problem.
to it. I will get tons of email, and it's still Atlanta or bust.
Yeah,
So.
It is. Well, guys, man, I appreciate y'all. Y'all have a safe football Saturday, and may the best team from the boot win.
Go Jags.
All right. Well, at least the second best team.
Okay. To get that one in there. All right.
All right. Talk to y'all later.
All right. Santoria Black of the Alcorn. Nope. The Grambling State Radio Network. All right. Let's take a quick time out. See, I feel like I'm being rushed. Charles Edmond has called. He's ready to come on. We'll visit with him next. Then Brandon B.J. Jones of HBCU Game Day. Boy, this has been a wild show. Just literally wild. I'll be back after this quick time out.
Serving the community through faith and athletics. The Open Mic Broadcast Network.
One voice. It can get the point across, but it only carries so far. Add a voice. It's richer, louder, but that has limits too. Add a third voice. It's even more powerful. Add another, and many, many more. And we are stronger than ever. That's the power of a community coalition. They help community groups, faith groups, civic organizations, PTAs, employers, and many others in your community organize their resources and focus them where they're needed most, like fighting to keep kids away from drugs. Ask a group that you belong to if they should belong to a community coalition. It's easy to get involved. Visit helpyourcommunity.org and they'll tell you exactly how your group can help. That's helpyourcommunity.org, because you get more when we get together. Brought to you by the Office of National Drug Control Policy and the Ad Council.
Broadcasters come into our lives on radio and TV, bringing us information and entertainment. Broadcasters are there for us, but who is there for them when they fall on hard times? The Broadcasters Foundation of America provides financial assistance to broadcasters in acute need due to a critical illness, accident, or other serious misfortune. If you know of a broadcaster, on the air or behind the scenes, who may need our help, please share our message. Visit broadcastersfoundation.org.
Welcome back to this week's edition of the Coles Brown Show, heard exclusively right here on the Open Mic Broadcast Network and Spreaker.com. Next guest is Charles Edmond of the Alcorn State Radio Network, SWAC football segment. Charles, good morning to you.
Good morning. Happy holidays.
Same to you, sir, and you and yours. You didn't eat too much, I'm sure, for the holidays so far.
I hate to say it, but I ate too much. I'm sorry.
I understand. I actually didn't. So, you know, I had an adequate portions. Yeah, because normally, certain things I'm just going to go after. But now, look, with saying that, there's still holiday season's not over yet.
You're just getting started.
And speaking of getting started, congratulations to Alcorn State University. Last week, all over Jackson State, and now will be the host of the 2019 SWAC Football Championships. I'm sure the Alcorn State fans and alumni are very happy to be able to host for the second year in a row.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, we had to get it done last week in order to host the second annual SWAC football championship game on campus. So we had to take care of some business. So that's another item checked off the bucket list. You want to start out by winning your division. You did that 2 weeks ago. And now you want to play your championship game on, as Fred McNair likes to say, on your own grass. And we're able to do that by beating Jackson State. So check that off the bucket list. So we're halfway there.
And I mentioned earlier in the show that I think this is new. I saw via social media Dr. McClellan presenting a trophy to the Eastern Division champs. Is that new, or they've been doing that?
That's the first time I've seen that. You know, they've got a new trophy maker or distributor in Tiffany's. It's one of the top flight jewelers, and they specialize in that stuff. And so I got a chance to pick up the audio and watch the video of it. And actually, on the coaches show that we had here in Vicksburg, he brought that, and he was like. He's trying to protect it like a baby. You know, want to make sure that nobody got around it or got too close to it, because it's a pretty expensive item from my understanding. And you make sure it's sitting right, it's not off level. So, you know, it's one of those things that you want to covet it and cherish it as much as you can.
Well, you add it to the trophy case. So with that being said, we can expect Dr. Cable and Dr. McClellan to be at the Bayou Classic today. And in the locker room for the winner.
Absolutely.
Win or go home. That's simply, you know, you can put that as a hashtag win or go home. Hashtag on the line, the Western Division Championship.
Yep. I mean, and if you look at the beginning of the season and how both of those teams, Grambling and Southern, started, I mean, I think both teams combined the first month of the season were maybe 1-8 to start the season. But you got two of the hottest teams in the conference going at it. Grambling's won 6 in a row, and Southern's, I think, won 6 or 7. So, you know, over the last million years, it seems like it comes down to the Bayou Classic. And right now, that's probably the way it should be. I mean, right now, if you look at the West, it's been Southern, it's been Grambling. I mean, we thought Prairie View might be in the mix, but we know what happened there. I clearly think, you know, other teams like UAPB will probably get better, and they're going to probably push Grambling and Southern in years to come. But, you know, clearly the two best teams in the West are playing for the division today.
And speaking of football, and you mentioned Prairie View, congrats to Prairie View, Alabama State, which I predicted last week that they were going to go in there and get it done. Now, it was some drama at the end. I think I watched the last quarter. On their live stream, and wow, you know, some things stay the same, but hey, a winning record for Coach Dooley in year 2. Year 3, pressure is coming. No, pressure's already there, in my humble opinion, from the outside looking in. So we'll see what happens. Next year will be crucial for, I think, a lot of the programs, the teams that are on the top, will they stay there? Will they be consistent? The teams that are just outside of the top tier, can they finally make a move and get into that conversation, and then on the field prove that, hey, we've made improvements. But next year we'll take care of next year. But this year, Alcorn will host Grambling or Southern University next Saturday. And Charles, I saw where ticket information, parking, and all of that has already been put out there for next week.
Yes. A lot of our fans were calling on Monday, flooding the ticket office phone lines to see when everything would be released. It was released later on Tuesday, so you can get your tickets online, parking, and all that. So through Impact Tickets, you can do everything you need to do to get your tickets without having to stand in line at the ticket window. Of course, we'll be selling tickets, of course, from the ticket window on the day of the game. So it just depends on how you want to handle it. You know, if you want to make it easy on yourself and getting your stuff online, or if you want to stand in line, that'll be up to you. But the tickets are definitely available.
And what are the prices for that?
I got to pull that one up. If we can talk about some other stuff, I'll pull that up for you.
Somehow I got a feeling I've heard 35, and that number sticks out to me.
Yes, that is, I can tell you, the game day prices, ticket general admission is 35. I do remember that, but all the other, the purple seating and reserve seats, I don't know that. I'm going to pull that up for you right now.
Yeah, and I think I have it posted on the Carlos Brown Show Facebook page, and I'll be pulling it up as well. But for Alcorn State over Jackson State last week, some news immediately afterwards. Yeah, and you kind of knew in the next couple of days. Jackson State has made some. They've done some movement on the coaching staff. Ron Dickerson Jr. went from offensive coordinator, I believe, to special teams coach. And Hendricks will be the head coach, of course, but / defensive coordinator. That sounds like that's a desperate action. Usually when you see that happening, the next thing is if it doesn't get better, then you'll see the top man gone. That is very interesting, but you kind of expect it for the second year in a row after a loss to a big rival. Jackson State moves quickly. Isn't that interesting? Quickly.
I think that's what you're supposed to do. I mean, clearly, and what Coach Hendricks said in the last teleconference is that you got to change the culture around that program. And, I was kind of confusing when he said that at first, but what he's trying to do is, get some positivity in there if he can. And I think the interesting hire for him is bringing T.C. Taylor on as offensive coordinator. Now, T.C. Taylor played his college football at Jackson State, left-handed quarterback. Remember T.C. Taylor well.
Right.
And that, that's going to generate a little bit of a buzz. But I think for me, Jackson State's got the pieces offensively. They just need someone to put it together. But I think the big issue is that defense. The defense was a huge, huge, huge problem all year long. I mean, I don't think anyone expected the game last week to turn out the way it did. For Braves fans, they love it. For Jackson State fans, they hate it. But I don't think anyone expected it to be as lopsided as it turned out to be. I mean, Jackson State offensively, they just weren't very good at all. 6 yards rushing. I mean, nobody expected that after having over 200 yards against Southern the week before. So Jackson State's got a lot of work to do, especially on the defensive side, and I think they've got the right guy on the offensive side. Now, you talked about that defense, though, Carlos. Isn't it kind of familiar? The head coach kind of taking over the defense. Isn't there another school in the conference that had their head coach take over their defense a little bit?
I could be facetious, Charles, and I could say that there's a head coach that's heavily involved now.
Yeah.
He just doesn't have head coach and defensive coordinator, but come on. His influence is there. You can see it. Stevie Wonder could see it. And that's not necessarily always a good, now remember this, that's not necessarily always a good thing.
Yeah.
You know how I feel about it. If Dr. Prince is my defensive coordinator, I'm the head coach, I understand I'm the CEO, but I'm going to have Dr. Prince having full autonomy on that defense. I'll only come over if there's a problem, but I'm not going to micromanage my defensive coordinator.
I sure appreciate that, man. Thank you very much.
Well, that's a great point. That's a great point, Carlos, because there's some people, some Braves fans, that scratch their head and wonder why they watch Fred McNair pacing up and down the sidelines when he calls a timeout on defense, Cedric Thornton or Elliott Ratton, offensive coordinator, while they're handling their team out of a timeout. Fred McNair just kind of stands back and lets them, as you point out, handle their business, whether it's offense or defense. Some people are confused about that, but Fred McNair knows when to interject, and I think a head coach knows when to interject. But at the end of the day, that's why you have an offensive and defensive coordinator to figure it out. And as a head coach, you sit back and you get involved when you have to. So that's we've kind of seen both sides of that spectrum from some of our coaches. I think for Coach Hendricks and Ashley Robinson, the AD, who just got a new contract, there has to be some improvement. I mean, I think there was a little bit of a digression for Jackson State. They faded down the stretch. They lost 3 in a row to play themselves out of the Eastern Division conversation. So they had to shake things up. And, you see that all over the country when coaches have to make these drastic decisions. They have to do it to kind of keep the ship afloat. And I think that's what's happening now at Jackson State.
You're absolutely right. I do have some of the information. SWAC championship game, general admission is $35. I remember seeing $35. Reserve seating is $45. Purple seating is $65. Student tickets, $20, but a gold card required. Student tickets will not be available the day of the game. Children 2 and under, free. Parking prices, general event parking, back gate entrance, $15. General event parking, $20. Premium, $55. General tailgate, $65. Reserve tailgate, $80. And then it says bus is $80. RV reserve lot, $130. Includes water, electricity, and dumping Friday through Sunday. RV dry camp, $105. VIP, $130. So,
yep, it is a little bit higher than what we charge during the regular season, and I've been reading stuff on
championship game.
Yeah, for the championship game, and then some people on social media believe that the SWAC's going to get a cut of this and that, and I mean, you hear these theories out there, but the commissioner has said that the schools do keep all the revenue they bring in. So I mean that he has said that time and again over the last year how this is going to go. So it's it is a little bit more than what you would expect during a regular all-corn game, but this is for the championship, so it's kind of not surprising. And I've heard people say, hey, at Jackson State it was $32 or $35. I think it was $32 at Jackson State last week. So it's kind of par for the course for these type of things, and I'm sure for some people it doesn't matter; they'll be there anyway.
Yeah. What if that game was in Baton Rouge? They're so starving for a championship, they would probably pay $50.
Right.
General admission.
Yeah.
You're right. Some people will, excuse me. Some people will be there regardless. Some people will be there. They may fuss a little bit from my experience, but they'll be there. But hey, for the second year in a row, you got it on your campus. And if you can win that game, then you're on to the Celebration Bowl. So financially, that's what you look at. That's going to be nice. That's going to be nice. But who Alcorn State's opponent will be, that's the next piece of the puzzle that has to be solved. With that being said, Charles, how do you see this Bayou Classic being played out today?
I think in championship football, and this is a championship game, for championship games from here on out, you go with defense. And I think right now, Grambling's defense, I was just looking at some numbers a little while ago. If you look at the last 9 quarters for Grambling, they've only given up 1 touchdown in the last 9 quarters. If you go to the Alcorn game, they only gave up 1 touchdown. They shut out Valley, and I think 2 touchdowns in the last 9 quarters if you go to the Texas Southern game. This year, it's about defense with Grambling, and I think defense wins the day in championships. Although Southern is scoring the football, I think Grambling's defense is a little bit better. And even though Skelton's going to have his day, I just think something just tells me this is going to be a low-scoring Bayou Classic today. I might be wrong. If I'm wrong, I'll come out and say it. But this one's going to be low-scoring, and if it is, Grambling's going to win the game. Because I think offensively, Grambling still isn't there yet. I mean, just going back to our game, I think with Hickbottom, who was ejected in our game, I mean, they scored a ton of points against Valley. But Grambling's offense is not quite the same as it's been. Of course, you got a different quarterback in there, different type running back. I think, Coach Fobbs is kind of piecing that offense together. And I think for Southern, if they get off to a fast start and race out to a 21-0 lead like they can do, because they can score, I just don't think Grambling can have that quick strike attack to be able to get back in the game. But if Southern's offense struggles because Grambling's defense has got Skelton in the pocket, they can't run the football. I don't know, will Southern have Cheney today? Because I know he didn't play against Alcorn. He's really a big piece in terms of what they do offensively. Will Cheney be available for Southern?
I think so, because he's been out last few games. So I believe Coach Odom said they're as healthy as they've been all year.
Well, you got Ben, you got Washington, you got Cheney. I think they're going to have to mix it up a little bit, and then you add Skelton as that other dimension. I think what Coach Odoms is telling Skelton, look, hey man, don't lose the game for us. You don't have to be a hero. If it's not there, throw it away. Protect the football. I think Southern's going to have to run the football today a little bit. They got enough guys to be able to do that. And if they can do that and score and score and score, I think they'll win the game going away, because I don't think Grambling has the weaponry to keep up with Southern point for point. But if it's a defensive battle, which I think it will be, I think it's going to favor Grambling, and that's why I have Grambling winning the game.
Well, let's let me turn it up there. Let's look at, I think, overall the similarities. Southern's number 1 in rushing, Grambling State number 2. Southern 228, Grambling State 212. Offensively, both teams have been consistently inconsistent. Skelton, unless he has a big game, and if Southern wins today, he'll have an opportunity to go for 1,000 yards rushing. Ben has 700 yards, over 700 yards running the football. Defensively, to me, Grambling is much more aggressive. But this is the same Grambling State team during the winning streak that gave up a ton of yards to Texas Southern, as well as Southern gave up a ton of yardage. So Grambling State, their defense is much more aggressive. Special teams, you have to always look at that as well. You remember last year, 38-28? What set the tone of the game? Grambling State had a punt block. Southern recovers it in the end zone, and it's a touchdown. I think Skelton, at some point, let's see if he gets off to a fast start, and rhythm-wise, he's pretty good. And when he's able to run, it seems like it gets everything going for him. And I know Grambling State's number 1 deal is going to be to spy him and make sure wherever he goes, somebody's there to greet him. Again, offensively, both teams have struggled. Low scoring probably would favor Grambling State, some would say. But I know in these type of games, just throw out records. They've had some strange things happen in the Bayou Classic. I remember the year that Grambling was 8-2, Southern was 2-8 under former head coach Otis Washington, and Southern beat them by 30 points. It is always interesting. So both staffs, they know each other very well. It's going to be interesting. As I stated in hour number 1 and in hour number 2, it's a toss-up to me, really. I mean, I'm pulling for Southern University, and, if you're a Grambling, you're going to be pulling for them. But this ball game is going to be very interesting. Skelton must play well. I think at some point, Southern's passing game has to be there in this game. Balance offensively. And another key thing is to remember, down and distance. If Southern's on offense and they're in third and longs, that doesn't bode well the majority of the time. They got to be successful on first down. Defensively, Southern is very good against stopping the run, albeit they did not play well against Jackson State. But their back end, the secondary, the pass defense, still 9th in the conference. Will Grambling State be able to exploit that like other teams have? I don't know. It may not be a prediction for me in this ball game. But, Charles, you say you like Grambling State at the end of the day. You think Grambling State takes care of business?
I do think Grambling State will win, and I think their defense is going to carry the day. Although there's one big call to this. Probably their top defensive player, Anthony Mullins, will not be available. Of course, he got involved in some off-the-field stuff that made news last week. He has 7 sacks. So you don't have him. That's a huge piece of your defense missing. And that's huge. So that might not make it as dominant defensively for Grambling as if he were there, because he's just that much of a difference maker on defense. So if he's not playing, I do think Southern might have a little bit more success. But just in watching, I just go back to the Alcorn game. I mean, who has stopped Alcorn offensively other than Alcorn at times when we turn it over and pre-snap penalties and other things that set us behind the chains. Grambling's front four got us that particular day. And I think if Grambling's front four has that type of day, and if they can keep Skelton in the pocket, cause them to throw it away, and if Skelton gets a little jittery and tries to feel like he has to make some plays, throw some picks. I mean, Grambling's got 14, 15 interceptions, 4 for touchdowns. I mean, that secondary is tough. So I think Southern having to run the football is going to be the key to getting things done against this Grambling defense. If they can't do it, and Skelton has to throw the football and stand back in the pocket, I think Grambling's going to find a way to get to him. But without Mullins, I think that does change the dynamics of this game a little bit.
Yeah, Grambling State is very good at forcing turnovers too. What stands out, they're much more aggressive. When you look at Southern's defense, it's more of a bend but don't break. Down and distance, Southern's usually going to rush 3 or rely on the front 3. Sometimes they'll send a 4th guy. They try to keep everything in front of them. They really believe in playing with a nice cushion to the opposing receivers. You would hope that would change, but for one game when they've been doing it all year, hopefully they'll mix in some new wrinkles both offensively and defensively. But once again, you may see some plays that you haven't seen all year because it's the Bayou Classic. And coaches have been known to do that in this game. Because win or go home, that is what it boils down to. Someone's fan base is not going to be happy at about 7 o'clock tonight. And another fan base will be jubilant. New Orleans will be rocking for one fan base. I think it'll be entertaining. I mean, I think it's going to be one of those grind them out type of games, just based on the seasons that these two teams have had. I mean, early in the season, both Southern and Grambling, I thought Skelton should have been Southern's quarterback from day one. I stand by that. Even though Odoms has yanked him in and out of the game, and even in the Alcorn game, it probably cost him. He probably brought Skelton in two series too late. But nonetheless, I think Skelton's their quarterback, and I think Hickbottom has struggled to the point where Fobbs has had to yank him out of the lineup. And, we'll see if both quarterbacks play 4 quarters today. I don't know how much of a leash they have. I feel more confident, though, in Southern's offense than Grambling's, because Hickbottom at times in the Alcorn game looked pretty shaky. Just throwing some very bad picks, some bad reads. But I think Skelton's a guy that can't be a hero, though. I mean, you've got enough pieces around him where it's no problem to punt. If it's not there, throw it away, punt, live to see another day. Even though Skelton's got the happy feet, he can make it happen, but he's got to protect the football. If it's not there, throw it away and punt it. I think that's kind of what Skelton has to do. And I think Hickbottom feels a little pressure too. But because I just don't think Grambling's running game is as good as Southern's running game. Hickbottom's got to have protection and sling it down the field. So I think it's just two different dynamics offensively. I give the edge to Southern offensively. I give the edge to Grambling defensively. And special teams might be a little bit of a wash. So, like you said, I mean, if you're behind the chains, if you're 2nd and 20, 2nd and 16, 3rd and 14, if you're Southern offensively, you're in trouble because Grambling's going to bring pressure. The one thing against Alcorn is that Grambling didn't get home a lot of times, and our offensive line held up. Will Southern's offensive line hold up if they bring pressure, and they will, and then Skelton has to dip out of the pocket and try to make some things happen. So that's the game inside the game for me. I know you love the trenches, and I think this is a game we'll have to watch the trenches on both sides. Yeah. Well, we'll see. The game, 4 p.m. on NBC Sports Network, and it should be over about 7 p.m. Charles, next week we'll talk the winner of the Bayou Classic. Well, we'll talk about the Bayou Classic, then get you ready for Southwestern Athletic Conference Championship, and then we got to start talking a little basketball. Some games have been going on. Non-conference, I know people don't get excited about non-conference, but conference has had some wins on both sides, women and men. So, you always got to look at that as a positive aspect. And then before you know it, it'll be the end of the year and it'll be conference play. So have a great weekend. Enjoy your week off as far as broadcasting, and then we'll talk with you next Saturday.
I'm looking forward to you coming to Jack Spinks. If Southern wins, are you coming? We got your seat with your name on it.
We'll get back with you. Well, hey, sometimes you have to go even if they don't win.
Oh, yeah.
So it's been disappointing, to say the least, but hey, the best team will take care of business, and that'll be Alcorn versus Grambling and Southern. And Alcorn's playing at home, so I know they're feeling very confident that they'll get it done. But we shall see. Still some football to be played starting today. But appreciate it, Charles.
All right, Carlos. Thank you.
All right. Take it easy. Charles Evans of the Alcorn State Radio Network. You got about 19 minutes left. Take another quick time out. Then Brandon B.J. Jones, HBCU game day. He's in the Big Easy, the Bayou Classic. I'm sure he's going to talk about that. Also want to get into FAMU and Bethune-Cookman. You're talking about streaks. That's a streak that for some may have you scratching your head. North Carolina A&T punched their ticket in. They're in the Celebration Bowl. Who they will face, it could be Grambling, could be Southern, it could be Alcorn. We'll just have to see. Brandon B.J. Jones up next. You're listening to the Carlos Brown Show.
Be the one with courage to fight child abuse.
All Texans must find the courage to fight child abuse.
Learn the signs and symptoms and report suspected abuse to appropriate authorities.
Learn and know these warning signs.
A child who undergoes changes in behavior, appetite, or routine.
Watch for unexplained injuries, a change in academic performance, or loss of interest by a child in regular activities.
Trust your instincts. If you suspect something, do something.
If you believe a child is in an abusive situation, please call the Texas Abuse Hotline at 1-800-252-5400.
Be the one with courage. To find your local Children's Advocacy Center, visit onewithcourage.org.
On behalf of children, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
How you doing? This is Mike Prince, the radio guy. I want to thank you so much for joining us on our daily content and programming, and serve as a reminder that you can listen to the Carlos Brown Show live here on the network 10 a.m. to 12 noon Central Standard Time each and every Saturday. Carlos Brown is a seasoned, legendary sports talk show host based in Baton Rouge, Louisiana, but we're not going to hold that against him. Join the Carlos Brown Show live on the Open Mic Broadcast Network 10 a.m. to 12 noon.
The birth of legends are storied in this conference. We must never forget our rich history. We now turn our gaze to the future. The new legends will emerge. New heroes to arise. The Southwestern Athletic Conference. Be our history.
Welcome back to this final segment of this week's edition of the Carlos Brown Show, heard exclusively right here on the Open Mic Broadcast Network. So, quickly before I get to my guest, did we play any Grambling State Fight song music today? Good. All right. My next guest. My next guest is Brandon B.J. Jones of HBCU Game Day. Brandon, good morning to you, sir.
Yeah, good morning, Carlos. How's it going?
I'm ready for this ball game. Oh, it's huge. It's big. It's the 46th annual Bayou Classic at 4 p.m. How are you doing?
Man, I'm always have nerves before this game. It doesn't matter the scenario. Those nerves are magnified today because of what's on the line. Third year in a row, Western Division title. It's Southern Grambling. It's the bragging rights. It's everything. You can either accomplish, put yourself in a position to accomplish your dreams that you set for the season, or you can look forward to 2020. So a lot on the line today here in New Orleans.
Hashtag win or go home. Simply the loser, their season ends today. You win, you move on. SWAC championship against Alcorn State on the reservation next week. So we'll get right into it. I like to pick a football mind. You've played in the Bayou Classic. You know all about it. Grambling State University defense. Everyone seems to think that or believe that Grambling State has the edge defensively. Offensively, they give Southern the edge. What do you think about? And then finally, on the show, we've been kind of talking about it's a pick'em game. It's a toss-up. Similarities a lot. How these teams got here, quarterback play, inconsistency. How do you look at it? You may see it in a different way than the majority of us have talked about it.
I see these things as mirror images of each other. They get wins. They're not the most pretty. They're not the most impressive. They're not giving you eye candy or passing the eye test. Southern's most impressive victory on the year has been Arkansas Pine Bluff. Grambling, if we're talking about just scoring-wise, will probably be against Mississippi Valley or maybe Texas Southern. So they win close. They win ugly. But the biggest thing is that you win. Grambling has been steady as she goes since they started the season 0-4. They've been finding different ways to win. And Southern and Grambling, they are two football teams that have found ways to win multiple football games despite sometimes being outgained and losing the turnover battle. The things that you are taught that you must do this to win football games, these two have found a way to win them without doing those things. So it's been miraculous, but these two are mirror images of each other. So I think it sets up for an exciting ball game today.
I think you're kind of in lines of what has been discussed on this show so far from, just text message and the conversation. Skelton, does it all falls on his shoulders offensively, in your opinion, or should it be a shared responsibility today?
I think if you're Southern, you want it to be a shared responsibility. If you look at a year ago, Ladarius Skelton did what he did through the air, 8 of 14. Didn't throw that many passes, but the passes that he threw seemed like they were all big ones. If you look at what Devon Ben did on the ground last year for Southern, going over 150 yards on the ground, if he can have another one of those days, whether it's be him or Cheney or one of the other backs, that takes a lot of pressure off Ladarius Skelton in that pass game. And if you're able to move the sticks on the ground, that means that you're eating up clock and you're really gassing that Grambling State defense the same way they did a year ago.
Defensively, well, Grambling State University, I mean, they've given up some yardage. Texas Southern, like Southern is that. They just seem to be much more aggressive. They're very aggressive. If you're Southern, how do you counter the aggressiveness of Grambling State University?
I mean, to counter that, you have to be smart with the football. Grambling will take chances, and because they take chances, they do give up a lot. But when they hit the opportunity, if Nick Williams can get a pick, he's shown 3 times that he'll take it back to the house. So you have to be smart with the football, making the smart pass. Skelton can't get into any of those double clutch situations that we've seen him do. The biggest thing for Southern today is going to be take care of the football. You can live with Grambling beating you. You can't live with you beating yourself and giving Grambling an opportunity to get what we call cheap points.
Yeah, because to your point, Grambling State's one of the top, if not the top, in forcing turnovers. So they're aggressive, they're taking chances, and they've been successful for the most part in this winning streak by doing that. So you look for them to try to continue that today. Now, with that being said, I made a comment that it's going to come a point in the game, and maybe this is what you were just talking about, that Skelton, Southern, that passing attack, they're going to have to make some throws and catch the ball, because I think Grambling State is going to say, hey, we cannot let Skelton beat us with his athleticism or his legs. Do you figure that's going to come to a point early on that Southern's going to have to make some throws, and then also down in distance? BJ, I know you can't feel well if Southern's in third and 10, or third and long, third and 15. That won't simply do it.
Right, you have to be in third and manageable. I think the team today that plays behind the sticks will be in an extreme disadvantage. Both of these offenses have challenges, so I think it's very important to put both quarterbacks in a situation where you have third and manageable type situations. For Grambling, they have to kill Skelton first. You have to have someone. You have to. If Southern's going to beat us, it can't be 8. It's going to have to be someone else, and that's the mentality that you have to take if you're on that Grambling side of the football.
Speaking with Brandon and B.J. Jones of HBCU Game Day, talking about Bayou Classic as we move quickly here. Most teams have exploited Southern's pass defense. Would it be safe to say that although Grambling State has struggled offensively, we know Higginbottom, he is a dual threat. He can beat you with his legs. Will Grambling State try to take advantage of what other opponents have done this year via the air?
Yeah, that would be foolish to not to try to see if you can get Higginbottom moving a little bit and get some defensive backs looking in the backfield and then go over the top. You saw Jackson State do it 2 weeks ago. Get Jalen Jones moving a little bit. You know he's dynamic with his legs, and then try to hit one over the top, catching one of the defensive backs peeking. The key for Southern in those situations where you got to get pressure on the quarterback. A year ago, Higginbottom and Wright were sacked 5 times. If they're sacked 5 times again, that spells doom for that Grambling State offense.
Well, I'm looking forward to now that you mentioned that. Maybe, Southern likes to drop 8 in coverage, and sometimes you have to do it, especially if it's third and long, but I'm going to remember that. Can Southern produce some sacks, the front 7? That means sometimes you got to send some extra people. 3 against 5 is going to be the advantage for the 5 offensive linemen. So, I know Coach Odom's in the defense. They like to bend but don't break. I think they've got to really challenge Grambling State's offensive line.
That's the key. And you look a year ago, that offensive line was challenged. And if you look this year, Grambling still gives up a lot of sacks. They can be had on the offensive front. It's going to be imperative that Southern takes advantage of that in the way that they did a year ago. Also, Grambling could not run the ball against Southern a year ago. That's also key.
And they're not running it well again this year.
No, most of their runs are coming off of broken down plays when you get Higginbottom on the quarterback scrambles. A kid, I'm not sure if he's going to play today, is Kevin Dominique. He had some production in the last few games. Not sure what his status is today.
So there'll be some things to look for in this ball game this afternoon. Starts again at 4 p.m. on NBC Sports Network. BJ going to kind of move off of that, and maybe if we have time, get a prediction about this Bayou Classic. But in Black college football last week, you often hear me talk about a streak, Southern and Alcorn State. Excuse me. But there's another streak, and it's kind of from the outside looking in, it's puzzling. FAMU, got a chance to watch the majority of that game last week. Once again, I think it's the 8th straight game against Bethune-Cookman.
Yep, 8 straight.
That is just weird. But Bethune-Cookman gets it done again. It was an exciting game, some big plays, but man, FAMU has to feel like Southern feels against Alcorn. My goodness.
And if you look at this game, you look at the last 3 years, FAMU has led Bethune-Cookman in the fourth quarter all 3 years. And it's been an interception at the end to completely ice it for Bethune-Cookman. You feel bad for Ryan Stanley for all that he has done at FAMU, rewriting the passing record books. He will leave having 3 crucial interceptions in the Florida Classic and leave Tallahassee with 0 wins against Bethune-Cookman. That has to stink.
That is just really, again, it's unbelievable. You've got a couple of wins against North Carolina A&T, but that just shows you against your rival, your most heated rival, anything can happen. That's just amazing to me. I'm sure they'll break the streak eventually, but FAMU not eligible to in postseason this year. So with that game over with, and they're losing to Bethune-Cookman, we congratulate North Carolina A&T. They punched their ticket to the Celebration Bowl, and they got a chance to play either Alcorn, Grambling, Southern University.
Yep, and the A&T. We talked last week. You asked, are the A&T fans excited? They sold out of their allotment in less than 24 hours. There's your answer. The Aggie, the fans of North Carolina A&T, that Aggie pride, as they call them, as their cheer, they're excited about coming back to what they call AT-Lanta. AT-Lanta is the way that they have it on social media now.
Well, a little cocky, but they backed it up.
Yeah, they backed it up.
So I think the challenge is between Alcorn, Grambling, and Southern University. Alcorn, if they win a championship and they go to Celebration Bowl, from what I've seen, they traveled well. If Southern is to make it, you know what's going to happen. Mm-hmm. The floodgates are going to open. Grambling State, I'm not so sure about how well they travel. And I guess I'm saying you've got to have a nice representation from the Southwestern Athletic Conference.
Yeah, I mean, you definitely want that. I mean, A&T outnumbered Alcorn a year ago. Alcorn still traveled well. A&T is finding themselves traveling better and better and better each year. I can tell you, being in the Atlanta metro area, that there are 2 teams that people in the Atlanta metro area want badly. One is Florida A&M. The second is Southern University. Those are the 2 teams that you hear talk about the Celebration Bowl. Those are 2 teams that are on people's wish list.
Wishing upon a star. It could happen for one of the teams. One it will not. But we shall see. But I heard some of the same talk last year. Excuse me, I'm getting all choked up. In Atlanta, that possibility. So I understand what you're saying, and I've heard the same thing. So with that being said, your top 5 Black college poll for this week.
So in the top 5, in the 5 spot, I have the Jags of Southern University. In the 4 spot, I kept the Wildcats of Bethune-Cookman. In the 3 spot, I have the South Carolina State Bulldogs. 2 spot, the North Carolina A&T Aggies. And the 1 spot, I have the Alcorn State Braves.
The Braves are number 1 again. It's been a consistent poll. Southern's always around the 5 or they out at number 6 or what have you. So they've kind of been in and out. FAMU, big loss for them. South Carolina State, boy, came close. But A&T back in Atlanta, December 21st, again for the Celebration Bowl. Last but not least, what does your gut tell you? Take away the emotions. You don't have the blue and gold glasses on. What does your gut tell you about this game, the Bayou Classic today? Who takes it?
I'm going to stay away from predictions because every time I do a prediction, I end up on the wrong side. But I will tell you this. My gut's telling me that this is going to be a heck of a ball game. You have two teams, mirror images of each other. Both have struggled. I think that someone's going to come alive that we haven't talked about all season. And if that's someone, for me, I think that someone who's going to come alive might be Hunter Register. I think we've talked about the defensive backs from Grambling and what they've been able to do. People have slept on what Hunter Register has done this season. I think that he has a big game. I will say this, the team who does the best on the special teams and limits turnovers, that's the team that I like to make it. I will say this here first. If Southern were to get to the win today, I really, really like their chances next week against Alcorn. If Southern is to get this win today, and I'll go on the record by saying that, I like their chances next week against Alcorn. So I think it's going to be a hard-fought game. I think it's one that's going to carry over into the fourth quarter. I think that the biggest thing is going to be things that we talked about, which offensive line is able to establish themselves, who's able to stay out of the second and long, who's able to limit the turnover. So I think it's going to be maybe a six-point game or less between these two rivals.
Well, I appreciate the fact that you said I'm staying away from predictions. I'm going to stay away from a prediction as well. As someone else said, someone's going to win and someone's going to lose. And I know the Alcorn State fans, we know who they're pulling for. Oh, my. They're going to be having secret pom-poms, blue and gold.
And Carlos, if I will never do this, but I want to give a shout-out to a young man named Daryl LeBeau from right here in New Orleans, Louisiana. Good friend of mine, second-year head coach back in my hometown of Birmingham, Alabama. He's taken his Pleasant Grove Spartans to their first state championship in over 50 years, in just his second year as the head coach. So shout out to Daryl LeBeau, New Orleans native, played at Miles College, taking the Pleasant Grove Spartans to the 5A state championship in the state of Alabama. Congratulations, LeBeau.
Wow, congratulations. And you're going to have to give us an update on that as well. Well, BJ, enjoy your stay back in Louisiana again. Hope it goes the way you want to, and we'll talk again next Saturday. Appreciate you, brother, as always.
And hopefully we're real happy the next time that we talk.
Yeah, because if not, it's going to be weeping and gnashing of teeth going on. But we shall see. We shall see. Have a great weekend.
All right, Carlos, you have a good one.
All right, I want to thank Brandon B.J. Jones, Charles Edmond, also Santoria Black, and DeMarcus Miller, and last but not least, the good doctor, Dr. Michael Prince. Dr. Prince, be well, be strong, and we'll see Prairie View again next year. A winning season. Don't give up on them, Prairie View alums, not just yet. That's my special message to you. Santa and Christmas will be very special maybe for you guys. Another recruiting, great recruiting season. But
good night, Carlos.
Appreciate everybody for listening. Tune in next Saturday at 10 a.m. for another edition of the Carlos Brown Show, heard exclusively right here on the Open Mic Broadcast Network and Spreaker.com. Until next time, peace and God bless.